God of War Ragnarok is all about spectacle, sick moves, and trying to have a good relationship with your daddy.
Zeus! Your son has returned.
Part of the way through this adventure, famous bad dad Odin ambushes the titular dad, Kratos, with some bullshit and asks this question.
What do you even know of godhood? In your lifetimes, has anyone ever worshipped you? Ever prayed to you? Can you even imagine that kind of love?
Holy shit! I'm riveted. I thought this was an exceptionally interesting question to ask, and one I didn't expect from a quintuple A studio. Taking a look at the god he once was, we can find the answer to this question though, and maybe even get some insight into his future. Our introduction to Kratos was on the day of his first suicide attempt. I do say first because he definitely tries again. But ultimately, he can't really die because God shit.
Your giant stuff magic is truly a marvel.
They do hand-wave a lot in this series, but who gives a fuck? This is a video game. The entirety of their cosmology doesn't need to be spelt out for an ungrateful audience who would lore video that shit to death, giving a bad name to self-respecting YouTubers like myself, who prefer jokes about bodily emissions. But Kratos was a bad dude. Like, full Majin Vegeta mode once he became the God of War. I do think it's interesting that we see him have a decent relationship with his second command in the Spartan military, implying that he was revered amongst his Spartan brothers. Being that he was literally raised alongside them, that makes sense. Also, he was legitimately upset when dude told him that Zeus razed Sparta to the ground.
Zeus.
So there's that, Odin. Prick. But we can't forget that his exploits were what led the gods to conspiring against him and impaling him on the Greek Buster Sword.
With every city you destroy, the wrath of Olympus grows.
He was a bit of a warlord tyrant type dude. We later find out though that really Zeus was on a mission to break the cycle of father killing son in the dickest way possible. He was just gonna kill his son first. See, in the beginning of it all, Gaia birthed Uranus, and he was a real piece of work, so she conspired with Kronos, who was her son/grandson and Uranus' son, to kill Uranus when he was in the middle of a non-consensual sex act with Gaia, Kronos' mom. Look, I know that we're talking about primordial beings who are literally made of wind and earth and shit, but that's fucking gross. I would never do that. Idiots. Then Kronos became a dirty shitbag too when he got the prophetic word that one of his kids would kill him, just like he did his pops. So he ate him. He just chomped him down. Except, in a moment of cunning, Zeus's mom Mosesed him away, and Gaia teamed up with Zeus, her grandson, great-grandson, whatever, to overthrow Kronos' tyranny. He does so, and just like his incestuous daddies before him, became a real paranoid fuckhead about prophecies, which leads him to attempting to kill Kratos, his bastard son. To Kratos' face, their reason for going to war with him, hypocritical as it was because Kratos was on this terrible path of destruction since becoming the God of War. Which shouldn't surprise anyone, should it? I mean, the dude was a battered and traumatized military man who was just made the God of War after killing Ares, his half-brother. After he gets the old Greek kebab from dad, that bitch Gaia, who Kratos has never even met, pops back in and calls him up from death to renew his rivalry with Zeus so that she can get the revenge that she craves. Again, he's being used to fight someone else's battles. Literally from birth, he was raised to be a killer in someone else's service. It started with Sparta, then Ares, Athena, and at this point now, Gaia. He does get her revenge, slaughtering countless beings in his path and essentially ending the world, killing not only those responsible for his suffering, but also an untold number of innocents. And by those responsible, I am including Kratos. He did try to, himself. Kratos said, "F this, everything sucks so goddamn bad, we're gonna hit reset on everything."
And mankind suffers.
Let them suffer.
There's then a vague idea of the hope that he acquired from Pandora being released back into humanity, but Kratos did unprecedented damage. He was a wounded and traumatized apocalypse monster. He was their Ragnarok. Suffice it to say, this Kratos was not experiencing much in the way of worship or adoration. Speaking of Ragnarok, just before that Odin scene we opened with, you meet the Norns, and I'm sure this will go well. He has such good rapport with fate dealers. It was very well done, but something they said confused me. They spoke about the hopelessness of defying prophecy, and since it's easier for Kratos to murder the literal weavers of time than it is for him to be something he's not, all signs pointed to his soon coming demise. And when I say all, I mean literally fucking all. Except when they dropped this line,
He still slays gods, but now he's sad about it? You are the sum of your choices, nothing more. And because your choices never change, you will learn that Heimdall intends to kill your son in Asgard, and you will do what you do best.
I was thrown
And
off
then
the prophecy. The game was showing me a different Kratos than the one who started the last game. If their prophecy hinges on sad Kratos, well, all the pieces don't weld together true. The Kratos that saved Freya seemed regretful at having to kill Baldur, but he didn't seem sad about it. Of course, he's sad that Faye died, but that's not what the Norns were talking about, and also like, yeah, duh, that's his wife. If traumatized Kratos does monstrous things, it seemed to me like we were seeing a Kratos that had moved well past that point. He was already making better choices. Was I misreading Kratos' progress? It would take the rest of the game's story to get any clarity on that meeting with the Norns. We were all led to believe that Kratos was going to die,
You will die, Kratos of Sparta.
with his redemption being that he set Atreus on the right path. I mean, that's what Kratos wanted and seemed to accept. At no point did I think he would be given a chance to actually redeem himself, and neither did he. He had resigned himself to living in little more than a hole in the ground while he wasted the days away as an immortal being who can't seem to stay dead. He didn't want outsiders or to involve himself in anything that required others because he was afraid of again being used as a tool.
Every path I walk leads back to vengeance.
But what Kratos learns through his relationship with Faye is that having a reason to live, Atreus, necessarily opens him up to the rest of the world. And he has the power to lead. He has the power to make things right after the abuses of Odin and Thor. The line from the Norns about Kratos being sad stuck out because his recent actions contradicted that idea. But his feelings about himself didn't. At that point in the story, he was certain that the only good he could offer the world was leaving behind a god in Atreus who was better than him. But what we learn from the events of the in-game sequences and the illustration behind the giant mural is that he could do so much more than just teach his son right from wrong. He, Kratos, can do good, and not just good by proxy. In a past life, Kratos ended the world because of his hatred of self, guilt, and hopelessness. But in Ragnarok, he finds something else.
What did you see in there, brother?
Path.
A way to see himself as someone who can be about something other than death and destruction. The world needs his strength and wisdom, and he now has permission from himself to give it to them. The healing presence of just a few allies, Faye, Brock, Mimir, part of the time Freya, and most importantly Atreus, taught Kratos that he isn't just a vengeful tool for someone else's war. He's loved and genuinely valued by the people in his life. Amazingly, at least for right now, Kratos and Atreus seem to have fulfilled Zeus's final wish. They broke the cycle of son killing father. Obviously that could change, there are coming sequels. But instead of all the paranoia, mysticism, and prophecy bullshit of his ancestors, Kratos' solution happens by just being a good dad. And in doing so, he becomes a god worth worshipping. God of War Ragnarok is truly a Game of the Year contender sort of game. What makes a Game of the Year contender? Well, wouldn't you fucking know it? I made a video to help us all decide our Game of the Year, your Game of the Year, Jeff Keighley's Game of the Year. I decided Jeff Keighley's Game of the Year. Check it out.